So we'll start from the bottom and work our way up. This week, starting off a little bit lower. Last week, the beginning items were near $300. This week, $100. So some lesser items. I'll try to go through a bit quicker. I make no promises. It's hard for me, if I'm being honest. First item, PSG, the trio that is in a PSA 10 there. Then we have Julian Alvarez in a PSA 10 from 2019 going for 112. Finally, we have a DiStefano team item from 1953, which is about as early as you're going to get for him, more than likely. Then we have quite the duo. You can let me know which one you want between these two. I think my decision would be pretty easy. Now, to be fair, there's probably more of these than there are these, but like there should be, and you know the demand will be the same, at least in that regard, that there would be more for this, I'd presume. The Lost Rookies, I don't get this at all. I think it's just, I mean, anytime you reprint rookies, it's just, it reeks to me of desperation and just trying to, like, you know, get over on people in some sort of way. Because rarely, I mean, Messi rookies aren't that expensive. We'll come to see one here in the auction. You can get one for $100. It's not, I mean, you can get one for basically the same price as this. It's not like you can't get a Messi rookie, right? So, yeah, it's just disgusting. 2018 Vinicius PSA 10 going for 120. Above that, we have a KDB Leaf Auto, a 2006 Este sticker. I did want to take a peek at this just because I was interested. I'm someone that likes Este Messis. The interesting part is that this was graded recently, even though PSA isn't grading the rookies. So they're able to authenticate this apparently, but they aren't able to authenticate the rookie, which makes you wonder, well, how does that work? And to which I would say the same. I don't know. So 126 there when we look over at recent sales. So that's actually up a good bit from the last sale, 84 and 52 before that. So I guess that's what happens when realistically nothing of this has sold for almost 6 months. So, you know, some demand comes along and the price goes up a little bit. So that's fun. Generally speaking, I mean, near the same price for almost 2 years now. It was a little bit higher during the boom, but of course it was. That makes sense to me. Beyond that, Pele SI for Kids 1990. Then we have a 2018 Mbappe. I want to take a peek at this. I think it just makes sense to do that. Down a good bit, and this is probably indicative of most Mbappes. We'll see a couple higher end rookies later that have sort of the same trend line. But yeah, I mean, now Mbappe's in the news and maybe he gets transferred and starts doing some stuff. But realistically, I feel like the transfer was almost always baked into Mbappe. I mean, most people have been like begging him to leave PSG. And so at this point, there were some rumors that he was staying. Now it's, you know, more than likely he's going, and there's this back and forth. But realistically, I don't think it matters either way. Mbappe hasn't done much, and we'll talk more about Holland here in a second. But even he isn't, you know, going to the moon, despite doing things that should take you to the moon in theory. 2015 Valverde, we have a 2006 Ronaldo. Paired up there with another person that doesn't matter at all. Then we have a 2004 Sergio Ramos and a PSA 7 going for 130. Another DiStefano team item, and then a Stevie G sticker auto. This row's got a little bit of everything, starting off with a numbered Jude next to a numbered David Beckham from 1998. Always funny to see that, like, back in the day, they weren't afraid to say, you know, 8,000. Nowadays, if you put a numbered out of 8,000 on a card, people would probably throw up. They'd rather see, you know, 500 different numbered out of 20s, and that would make them much happier than a numbered out of 8,000. But only pop 1 of 7, at least as far as PWCC's telling us. So, you know, probably more out there. Then we have a San Giorgio. I'm not exactly sure who this man is, to be honest. That, you know, kind of shows a flaw in my knowledge of soccer, I'm sure. But a pretty fun set and a nice looking one, certainly. I mean, the colors on that are beautiful. Above that, we have a 1997 David Beckham Upper Deck pack where he is on the front, so you get a sealed item while also knowing you're getting the item inside, so pretty unique. PSA 10 going for 144. Then we have a Dixie Dean Koenig. This is one of the prominent players of the set, and a 1.5 BVG going for 150. Then we have a PSA 10 football sticker pack with potential Ronaldo stickers inside. Pop 1 of 5 going for 150. I think that's actually probably a pretty good price, realistically. You know, the Ronaldo packs, or the boxes themselves, I'm pretty sure they're boxes of 50 packs. And they go for, you know, around that price, 5 to 10K, somewhere in there. And so when you do 50 times this price, you're basically getting PSA 10. You're getting a PSA 10 pack of 50 for essentially the same price as a box, which just means you're getting PSA 10s for the price of a raw pack. Which is good, you would think. Not easy to get your hands on a box, or even packs for that matter. And also, to be fair, I'm not sure if there are ways to map it. I know, certain things in American collecting, you can sort of map out where the hits are. I don't think that exists with stickers, but, always something to be cognizant of, I would say. 1998, Zinedine Zidane, Superfoot, right there, going for 150. A Ronaldo, 1996, always loved the look of this one. 150 seems like a pretty good price. 1994, Totti, and a PS8 going for the same. Then in this show, a couple modern items, which is fun to see. I mean, in the sense of, it seems, at least to me, like most people in the hobby basically dismiss anything base, and these are both two, base print-on-demand cards as of recent, so that's pretty cool. PSA 8 Messi Mega Cracks 2015, limited edition, really good looking one. In terms of his sort of inserts from Mega Cracks. Then we have a 2008 Robert Lewandowski going for 170. Not bad for what is a pretty low grade, relatively. A 1961 Puskás. And then we have a Robert Lewandowski auto. So you can go for the sticker auto or the rookie sticker. I've always loved the look of his auto, so I will give it that. PSA 10 Messi going for 174, which isn't too bad, honestly. There's been a lot of shilling, it would seem, on eBay. I saw some recently where Messi's were bid up over $200 while there were still lots of buy it nows under $200 not paid. So seeing it, sort of creep up there is interesting. Next to that, alternatively, you could get a BGS 4.5 of the rookie in a Campio. The least preferred of the rookies, or at least one of the least preferred, but still going for what isn't a crazy price. We have an Asasi from 1932. Really love the look of that there. Pop 1 of 1, just one graded higher as far as PSA is saying. Recent cert, so, always love to throw that out there when I can. Thomas Muller 2018 sticker auto. We then have a Rivaldo PSA 4. And this is down a little bit, but compared to relative PSA 3 sales recently, it's actually a pretty good sale, so just throwing that out there. Then we have a Raymond Kopa of the same set that we just saw a couple rows back. 2019 Panini Gold Standard Kylian Mbappe going for 210, numbered out of 129. Always weird. This is one of those sets where you can never really remember or tell what the numberings are to. Maybe I'm just not as familiar, not as much of a collector of that set, but none of it ever seems too apparent to me. PSA 10 Living Messi going for 222. To be fair, this is 2019, so this is before the boom of ordering on demand, so that's a lesser printed Messi, surely. 2017 Kylian Mbappe going for 234 and a 10. Then we have the Merlin sort of foily 2004 sticker from Ronaldo, or 2003, 2004, and a PSA 8 going for 234, which isn't too bad of a price. At one point, these were doing pretty high numbers raw, and so this wouldn't be too bad at all. Alternatively, you have one very similar next to that in the 2000 Merlins UEFA Euro, 2000 Zinedine Zidane. This PSA 8 got a Lego logo on there. Don't see these all too often. Not to say that they're super rare. I mean, it's a Merlin release. I'm sure there's more. But not something I see auctioned too much, which is a fun one. And if you're a Lego guy, even more fun for you. Kevin Keegan rookie right there. Always thought that just is, a ton of nightmare fuel. Hate the look of it personally, but, Kevin Keegan, obviously a legend. Not as much of a legend, I guess, in the soccer card realm, but generally speaking. Then we have a 1967 caricature sort of Pele and a SGC1 going for 250. A couple other vintage items. We have a Rivera from 1959 and then a Nazasi from the Koenig set, one of the more prominent members of the set, but the most common back as well, so nothing all too crazy. 2017 Tom's Chrome Mbappe, seeing that again. I don't know why that had such a premium over the last one. That was a 10 for 234. This is a 10 for 264, not that big of a difference, but always good to note that this is a second year Bergman, so 1966-67 Beckenbauer and a 4.5 going for 264. It'll always be interesting to sort of see how this plays out and where they fit in next to each other. Because, you sort of have the same thing, I guess, with Cruyff, because he has the 1968 and 69 Vanderhoot, but at least with that, you can tell a difference, and that way you basically price them the same. This one, they look basically identical, but one's a rookie, one's a second year, and you can definitely get higher grades at the second year, more common, but at the same time, of course, second year, so that's the give and take. Beckenbauer Auto, we've been seeing lots of those. Again, not that crazy of a card, so it is what it is. Again, I'll always say it is a nice card in the sense that, a Beckenbauer auto on a card that looks pretty good, but it's like a $10, $20 card. I don't know how much someone paid him to sign it, but you wouldn't assume a ton. and then they can turn and throw it for 300, sometimes even more, depending on how crazy the people get on here. Then we have a 2022 João Felix Gold going for 288. Doesn't seem too crazy. I mean, obviously João Felix, you know, falling off a cliff compared to where he was, but gold going for 288, not too crazy, at least in my eyes. We have a Messi PSA 6 going for 288, which comparatively that's pretty high. Usually 8s of this go for near 500, so a 6 going for 300s, you know, not too bad at all. We have a DD 1958 Alifa and a PSA 6 going for 324. I was just interested in this because, you know, in terms of sets, especially from vintage that are noticed by the greater people in the hobby, Alifa is one of them. This DD goes for 300, near the same price that we've seen in the past. A 7 recently went for 372, so relatively that could be kind of high. I want to take a look all the way back, and basically at the very beginning in 2018, well, 2017, 2019, PSA 5 goes for 100, PSA 7 goes for 100, so we'll just say basically 100 back when no one cared about any of this, and now only 300. So to think that this is one up, I mean, the DD's 3x over the span of soccer becoming insane, and this set particularly becoming the Pele. To think that DD's only gone up 3x, I mean, seems wildly undervalued. I mean, comparatively, right? I'm sure the Pele basically went from, you know, relative obscurity to being like the thing in the hobby. And, you know, that just goes to show that really set collecting and building out, you know, even deeper collections of these guys, these sets, really hasn't taken place yet. And so that's an interesting one. Not that I'm going to, you know, be running out and buying a ton of DDs, but just something to think about. Then we have a 1973 Panini Campione of Pele. Pretty nice looking sticker, I will say, but obviously later year, PSA 8. Probably not too hard to find, but 336 there for a nice looking Pele, surely. Monty Gum Garincha from 1966, PSA 5. You'd imagine the premium there is coming from the grade. Later year Garincha wouldn't think would go for that much, but obviously, you know, very important player, and personally one that I think, again, in sort of that realm of Pele mooning and no one else really taking the step up with him, you know, Garincha gets left behind, and that's a little sad. And funnily enough, you get kind of the, I guess, the three more iconic Brazilians within the hobby at the moment. Obviously, Neymar has the recency bias, but you get the patch auto there, number down of, what, 25, PSA 9. Always loved his auto. I mean, in the world of, you know, modern autos where people don't try or, you know, give a rip, the Neymar one looks pretty good. 1953 Termo Di Stefano, going for 350 there. A lot of these popping up, more so, I guess, the lesser players in the set, but even, you know, Di Stefano pops up a good bit. Next to that, we have Erling Holland sticker autos going for near 400. Above that, a PSA 8 Mbappe going for 400. I did want to take a peek at this, just because, you know, it's the Mbappe, at least in my eyes. The hobby doesn't see it that way necessarily, but not a bad sale, sort of where it's been bouncing around at lately over the last 6 months, down 25%. So, you know, not the best, but not the worst either for a sticker. Then we have a Figo rookie there going for 420. A nice gold Messi from Top Stadium Club going for near the same price. Then we have in this row a Gagia. This is someone that I am not familiar with, but 500 for a PSA 1 seems pretty impressive, I will say. Next to that, we have a couple Erling Haaland, you know, base that you can find most every day, going for 500, which is about the same price we've been seeing as of late. Then we have the 1979 crack Diego Maradona, basically the Estampas, but a year later, so same picture. I do like the border with the white and blue. PSA 2 going for 540, pretty impressive, I would say. You know, PSA 1s of the Estampas go for around that same price, so a year later, also stuck, you would presume. Yeah, I mean, pretty clean back relatively, but you can definitely tell it's stuck there in the top left. Next to that, a flawless 2015 Andrea Pirlo, sold the game, going for 630 and a PSA 1. That is also PSA 10. Wow, that's, I mean, if you like condition rarity on cards like this, the cards are already sort of rare in and of themselves, so whether or not you like condition rarity at that point, it becomes a little iffy. But yeah, I mean, PSA 10, that's pretty impressive. If you're using the typical PSA 10 to 9 skill, that means you'd assume a 9 to be like $200 to $300, which would be really cheap for a Pirlo. So that seems like a good deal for whoever got it. Then we have a 1969 Pele here, a Edizione Rele, and a PSA 3. Not a bad looking sticker. Later career, pop 101 none higher, at least for the moment. I always love a nice, ominous, like dark blue background, so I'm kind of a sucker for that. But obviously, you know, a pretty decent sticker, it would seem, at the price tag at 700. Alternatively, you could go for a more modern sticker of Mbappe there, 2016. PSA 8 we saw with the, or PSA 9 we saw with the PSA 8 price it did earlier, so that's relatively the same, although I mean, PSA 9s used to be a good bit higher, obviously not the case anymore, but, you know, during the peak, these were maybe 2, 3K at the peak. PSA 10s were doing crazy numbers at that point, but now PSA 10s are a bit more affordable. PSA 9 of the Mega Cracks Campeon of Lionel Messi. This is the less preferred and the, I guess, more common version. Looking at the price graph there, you know, relatively in line, a little bit down, but not as low as it's been, so, you know, within the range. Then we have a 1938 Koenig. This is a game between Germany and Italy. The players on the card, I am not too aware, so I'm probably missing out on something. There probably is something there with, you know, these players are important for some reason or another, but a CSG7 in and of itself is already pretty crazy because most all of these you see are pretty beaten up. I mean, you know, good graded ones are typically 4 or 5, so a 7 is very wild in terms of condition rarity. Above that, we have an Erling Holland Sapphire. We see about one of these every week, typically 7, 8, 900. Then we have the 2010 foil of Lionel Messi. This is the only card in the set of Lionel Messi, but it just, you know, with the background the way it is, it's pretty, you know, coveted by the hobby generally. Used to be a major premium back when, you know, I guess mid-career Messi stuff, especially World Cup related, was hot. Now $840 for that one, same price as a PSA 9 of the Campeon. So interesting to see that the Campeon goes for $840, the Campeon goes for $750. So notably, you know, a 15% boost in terms of price, depending on if it is the more rare or the less rare, but nothing too crazy. This is what I thought was crazy. A BGS 9 sold for more than a PSA 9, and I don't know why that is. I don't know if maybe this was flash and so people didn't see it as much. But yeah, $840 for the Campeon, and then $840 for the Campeon, but in a 9. And the craziest part, I was like, well, maybe the subgrades are good. The centering is an 8.5. I mean, you would think that's like probably what they could have gotten away with on this card since, you know, no borders, all white. But no, the centering, 8.5, everything else a 9. So realistically, that should be seen as lesser than a PSA 9 just based on grades alone. But for some reason that sells for higher, and that's probably the shock of the week for me going through here because you never see that happen. So I don't know what happened there, but it was interesting to see, to say the least. Next to that, 2022 Pele sticker auto going for $870. Comparatively, a 1965 Calciatore PSA 6 going for $870 as well. You know, you can you know, pick your choice between those two. I will say that card or sticker more so just looks absolutely amazing. Above that, one of the better looking typically of the Peles, this is the Cardmaster 1960 Master Vending. Apparently this is 59, 60, and maybe not 60, so that might be something that's going for it here. In addition, pretty rare as is, and if a 1.5 of something that's typically not stuck is going for this price, that's how you know it's a good one. I don't know what that is. Maybe someone spilled coffee on it. Even then, still looks like a great picture of Pele, so you can see why that does what it does. Pop 1 of 1 for higher, so also, you know, that's going to play a factor as well. Then we have the 1953 Di Stefano. This is a chocolate-based product, I am pretty sure. Typically staining and whatnot going on. Whenever I looked at this, it didn't seem too bad at all. I mean, the front and the back looked really, really clean, and obviously, you know, a very early item to be having this sort of vibrant color, so another amazing item there, and just amazing eye appeal. Here we'll see a PSA 4 of Ronaldo. This is the Deportivo going for $930 in a PSA 4, which is pretty strong. We've been seeing, you know, PSA 5s go for a little over 1,000 recently, so seeing a PSA 4 go for that price, despite, you know, constant sales of this. I mean, it seems like every week there's 1 or 2. We'll see another one in a second, which is sort of crazy as well. But yeah, I think it's in the, no, it's in the row beyond this. We'll see it though. Then we have a couple Messis, so you could go with the 2018 Finest Gold out of 50 Cornerstones or the 2017 Purple PSA 10. Both PSA 10, I guess. So, you know, sort of pick your own and decide what you wish. I guess, you know, rarity obviously goes here, but I think the purple looks better, and just the set itself sort of speaks for itself, really. So I like this one. This, typically, I'm sort of harsh on the Aquarellas. You know, over time, I'm sort of accepting the fact that, very loud bird there, but over time, I'm sort of accepting the fact that since it sells so much, it will be the, you know, one of the Pele rookies that people look to the most. And so that's just naturally something that's going to go with it. It does look amazing too. And when we look back at past sales, basically, I did have a sale of the purple just to be transparent. This is up like 20% off of some past sales, so not a bad sale for the purple. This Pele, though, basically down a lot. Now, I thought it would be interesting to look at all-time pricing to sort of see how that plays out. And in 2018, 2019, I mean, this is still like a $400 sticker. And so to be $1,600 now, obviously, up 4x, which most people would say, I mean, up 4x in, 5 years, that's a pretty big increase. And sure, it is. But at the same time, the participants in soccer is infinitely higher than it was at one point in the, I guess 5 years ago. So it's all a balancing act that you sort of have to play out. But if this did drop lower, it would be something I'm interested in just personally as, a collector. And a PSA 2 for $1,600 means that an SGC 1.5 with an eye appeal for $12 doesn't seem too bad. I mean, you could almost debate that maybe that's a PSA 2. Obviously, getting a PSA 2 difficult, but not a bad sale, or I guess not a bad buy, maybe not a great sale, but it is what it is. Above that, this is what I was talking about, so I don't know what happened here. This PSA 3 went for $1,300 when the 4 did $900, and this is wildly off-center, so I don't know what the thinking is there. All hand cut, and this, I mean, the borders already look jacked, so I don't know how this comes back, but yeah, I was just sort of dumbfounded by that. If you have any clue, let me know. Maybe the 4 looks stuck, or maybe, I don't know. We have a 2019 Erling Holland foosball. I thought that this was really interesting because, and maybe this is the last person that this will ever work with, but people sort of wrote off stickers for Erling Holland, and people, after that. But this goes for $1,300, which is, about where it's been when we look at the prices. I mean, sort of up and down throughout the year. Beginning of the year did really good, sort of soared, came back down as the year went on. Then the end of the year ended pretty well, and it's done okay. But I mean, comparatively, his chrome base and, the sapphire base, they're like 500 and 800 respectively. So this does a good premium over those. Now, granted, this has no, sort of numbered parallels competing against it, so that's a factor. But just something to note. Here we have a color wheel Messi going for $1,400. I did not know that PSA 9 color wheel Messi's did that crazy of a number, but I guess, he won the World Cup. So if you want to throw a narrative on there, you got that. Not my cup of tea. I don't really think that looks that good, but I'm sure it's hard to hit, since if it wasn't, it wouldn't be at that price. Then we have 2019 Topps Chrome Speckle Refractor of Erling Holland going for $1,600. This PSA 6 Pele, I don't like the single cuts of this. Typically, I'd like them more with Grincha on the side and with a red border. I think it just looks very classic, and to have them paired up is also good. Also, the names are messed up, so at least if you have them both, then you can sort of like be like, oh, this one, is supposed to be over there, and this one's supposed to be over there, and they mess it up. It just looks kind of silly on its own, and, not a bad price, though. I mean, $2,000 for 6, still, fairly respectable. 2017 Gold Nobility for Club and Country of Ronaldo going for $2K. Then we have a couple Mbappe 2017 purples going for $3,100. These were typically closer to $4,000, at least for the last year, so a little low. But again, Mbappe and sort of the state he's at makes sense. If he gets a move somewhere where there's a lot of hobby relevance, could be huge. And maybe now there's not as many people expecting sort of a run, so you never know. PSA 10 of the Messi. This is the Campione of the white version going for $4K. Typically about $4 to $5K for those, so that makes sense. This one, I'm not sure what happened. BVG4 going for almost $4,100. Typically, people look at BVG and say, I'm going to take off a grade or two. So, this could be PSA 2 or 3. Now, the distinguishment between a 2 and a 3 in PSA is pretty huge, because typically 2 means it's stuck, 3 means it isn't stuck. I'm not an expert looking at the back of this. I mean, it looks pretty clean, but when you zoom in, there are like different colors, and so I'm just going to assume like PSA 2 or 3 price. This feels pretty strong. I mean, PSA 1s typically do $500-$600, probably. 2s, you'd imagine close to $1,000. 3s, maybe a few thousand. But yeah, I guess we can look at some of the sales if you want to. That's probably more beneficial than me just making them up. But yeah, I mean, when we look back, you're not seeing many high price sales here. I mean, 4,000. We see 1,300 for a 2 at one point, 1,200 for a 1.5 at one point, and then not a whole lot to see. 1.5 here going for almost 2K. This is a big one, so 3.5 did 5,500, but that's a PSA 3.5, and I think this one looks pretty good if memory serves me right. Yeah, I mean, that is a fantastic looking one in terms of eye appeal. So a really good, and it says card ladder value says 2,600. I'm going to be honest, I hate the card ladder value because basically what it does is it just takes a soccer card index as a whole, attaches it to every single card, and then says, you know, that's how much that card's going up or down. It's crazy because their index is mostly made up of like 2020 boom hype items. Like you probably have like a Timo Werner base prism in there. And just because Timo Werner base prisms are going down does not mean that, you know, Maradona Stampas should go down at the same clip. So I think it's stupid. I wouldn't look at it. But I mean, even here, PSA 5, not great looking PSA 5, but a PSA 5 does 7,000. So that seems pretty high. I do like the Estampas, to be honest, personally. I own a few, mostly in low grade. I have a nice 3, PSA 3 that's been colored on. So, you know, I take what I can get. I think it looks nice, but this seemed really high, and, you know, I'm not too sure. Someone also said that it might be trimmed, and just looking at that left border, looks really thin. I mean, both borders typically are pretty thick, so that also might explain why it's BBG and graded very recently. So, is what it is. Then we have a 2017 Panini Immaculate Cristiano Ronaldo boot signatures. So this is a match used boot with an on-card auto. Doing 4,400. I mean, you know, comparatively, which one would I rather have? Obviously, gold prize footballers Holland, you know, everyone loves. But in this row, I think that Ronaldo is a really, really nice buy at 4,400. Numbered out 13, also a 9. I guess it's authentic, so that maybe matters. I mean, it definitely does matter, but to me, if you're buying a card like this, you know, condition doesn't matter too much. You're paying for match use, you're paying for the out of 13, you're paying for the on-card auto. You're not really paying to have it in the best condition. People typically pay for best condition when they aren't paying for the card and want something else to make it rare, right? So here we have an out of 50 prize footballers PSA 10 going for 4,500. In the past, this has gone for about the same price, 4,000, 4,000, 5,300, 4,500. So bouncing around in that range. And in my opinion, one of the best looking Erling Holland rookies. Love the classic border. The background's pretty interesting. The one thing you do have in this set, sort of some unnumbered parallels that are a bit wonky to figure out. But at least for the gold, you know what it is. Out of 50, beautiful card. And then in the top 3, this is where my jaw just dropped. I did not exactly know what we were getting into, but yeah, these are huge. So 2017 Select Cristiano Ronaldo Field Level out of 10, going for 7,800 and a 9.5. Absolutely just astounding card. I mean, the gold on that, just amazing to look at. I looked at comps. There are no comps, at least from what I could find, so it shows you how often this is going to market. I mean, just looks impeccable. 9.5, actually quad 9.5, so also has that going for it. Just a great Ronaldo. 7,800. I mean, comparatively to where golds used to be, that feels like a bargain, but obviously, you know, we're in a different place now, so relatively it all sort of makes sense. This one felt pretty high, but you do have the PWCC eye appeal. To be fair, it is top 30%, so it's not, you know, top 15, not top 5. It's not anything crazy, but top 30, going for 20,000 there. Do want to take a peek at that. So this one in the past, I guess, compared to the last sale went for 12,000. This one, let's see how it looks. I guess, you know, off center, top to bottom, so that's probably it. But in the past, 10,000, 20,000, 22, 21, 20. The highest sale ever was 40, so, you know, someone seemed to have bought the peak on this at 40, but other than that, the highest sale ever has been a couple $20,000 sales, so that's basically right in line with the highest this has ever sold. Now, of course, you have the eye appeal sticker, so take that into account, but not too bad at all. Very, very good sale. And then here, no comps for this one, nothing to look up. This is just a row of very hard to comp items, which is why they did what they did, but 21,000 for a select unlimited potential out of 10 Kylian Mbappe rookie. BGS 10, you just don't see something like this very often. You know, this isn't the rookie for Mbappe by any means. It gets a lot of hype. I've always sort of liked it, though, because I think the picture looks good. I think the border's pretty good. I like Select brand, honestly. And, you know, generally speaking, I think the cards look really good. So at BGS 10 gold going for 21,000. Jaw-dropping, but shocking. I guess not. I mean, honestly, it's an amazing card. And generally speaking, this was a very heavy-hitting auction, at least at the top. These top 10, basically, are some pretty insane cards. Beyond that, wasn't too, you know, dumbfounding. not a lot of the cards that you typically see, I would say. This is sort of more odds and ends as of late. It's not, you know, the same 10 Messi rookies, 5 Ronaldo rookies like you used to have back in the day. Now it just seems like a bit more of everything, which at least from my perspective makes this a good bit more fun. And hopefully it does for you too. So that's going to be it for me. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like. Would love to hear your thoughts on any of the sales or cards that you thought sold high or low down below in a comment. And if you want to see more videos like this as soon as I go live, make sure to subscribe. But with that said, hopefully you have a wonderful day and peace.